If you're making a Paludarium, Vivarium or Terrarium, mold is something you're going to be dealing with at some stage. It doesn't matter how perfect you plant things, it's an unavoidable part of the hobby. I've made a ton of different ecosystems over the years and not a single one has been completely mold free. It comes and goes sometimes, but there are always ways you can reduce an outbreak and also prevent any future flare-ups. But the most important thing of all is not to panic, because once you realize it's a normal process, especially early on, you can start to tackle the causes, then apply some solutions. So the primary causes that trigger mold outbreaks in a paludarium are generally poor airflow with super high humidity, overfeeding, and time, all of which can be dealt with quite easily. But it ultimately comes down to design, discipline, and a good cleanup crew. So to begin, the most important part of beating and preventing mold is a really good cleanup crew, with springtails being the hero in the story. The more springtails and the earlier you can get them into your ecosystem, the better. Springtails are the #1 weapon for fighting mold outbreaks from day one, right through until the day you break down your ecosystem. So make sure they're the first addition to your ecosystem, and ideally on the first day you set up your tank. Once you've added springtails, best practice is to wait about 4 weeks before adding your primary animals, so either vampire crabs, geckos, frogs, etc. Just make sure you wait as long as possible. Just like aquatic environments have a nitrogen cycle, terrestrial environments have a mold cycle. So it's important to let the ecosystem form to deal with all the newly merged components. If you're new to springtails, you're probably wondering if they can overpopulate and cause problems, and the simple answer is no. They pretty much self-regulate and will never cause a problem. If there's a lot of work to be done in the tank, the population will explode, and as things calm down and the waste disappears, the population will shrink, so there's no need to worry. You also don't need to worry about them escaping because they pretty much vaporize the second they leave their environment. At some stage I'll do a full video on springtails, so keep an eye out for that in the future. During this first 4 weeks of cycling, you can also add isopods and earthworms. While they don't directly deal with mold, they will deal with some of the waste products that mold likes to feed on. These aren't essential cleanup crew members to add, but they are an extra bonus if you don't mind putting them in your tank. The next thing that is more than likely contributing to mold in your tank, especially early on, is airflow and ventilation. So the lack of airflow, especially ventilation, can and will cause mold in a lot of situations, especially for people keeping vampire crabs. This is because vampire crabs are exceptionally good escape artists, and we usually like to seal up our tanks really well so that they can't escape, which is super important. However, you do need to have good airflow still, so make sure you allocate at least 2 to 5% of the surface area of your lid for air holes and ventilation. If you're using an acrylic lid or something, you can just drill some holes in it, or add a little bit of mesh. It's pretty simple to do and won't cost you any money. If you have a more traditional terrarium style tank, simply leave some of the air vents open, don't cover them up. You can still maintain great humidity levels with a good amount of air circulation. Unfortunately, there's no one size fits all solution for this, so you're going to need to experiment a little bit depending on your current tank. Finally, overfeeding. This is another big way to cause mold outbreaks in your tank. So try to underfeed your creatures a little and remove any food after 24 hours or when you start to see mold forming. Whatever is left behind, the springtails will clean up, so don't stress too much about little bits and pieces left behind. On the very rare chance you have a really big mold outbreak that seems to consume and kill everything, including your plants and moss, the only real course of action is to start cutting it out. I've only had this happen a couple of times over the years where mold has actively attacked and killed plants. It might not have been specifically mold or something else, but it looks very similar and it was kind of like a white spider web. The only solution to prevent this stuff was to cut it out of the tank and throw it away, then replace any of the gaps that was missing with some new stuff. It's something to be aware of because it might happen to you at some stage, so don't bother fighting with it, just cut it straight out and solve yourself some problems. Anyway, that's pretty much it. It's probably a lot easier than you thought it was going to be, but if you do have any extra tips, I'd love to hear them, so drop them in the comments, and as always, take it easy.